8:20 here. According to the CDC, every 10 seconds, someone in the U.S. goes to the ER complaining of head pain, and about 1.3 million visits are from acute migraine attacks. But there's something called a cluster headache, which can be just as disabling. Joining us is Joe McKay. He's a former retired New York City firefighter who was diagnosed with cluster headaches after 9/11. And also here is Dr. George NISSAN, who's a local doctor here in Dallas and treats first responders with similar conditions. So let's just start off with what exactly is a cluster headache.
Well, basically, it's the best way to describe it is it starts off like kind of like an ice cream headache where you get that pain,
right?
And that's how it starts, and then it pain gets worse and worse as time goes on, and it basically feels like someone's stabbing you in the eye with an ice pick, and you get attacks, and you could get 1 to 8 attacks a day. A lot of times they come at night.
No one wants to deal with pain like that. That doesn't feel good at all. You were diagnosed with this after 9/11.
Yeah, it was difficult. I lost a lot of friends. There were out of 343 firemen, I knew 26, 4 guys from my company that were killed.
Wow.
So in those months following 9/11, it was us going to that pile every day. Hoping to find somebody, still alive early on, and then it was a recovery effort. And during that time, it was funerals and memorials consistently, some 5, 6, 7, 8 a day. So it was very emotionally draining. And about 6 months after that, I got diagnosed with this thing called cluster headache. I had been sleeping one night, and I woke up, and it felt like, literally, like Freddy Krueger had just sat on my chest and stabbed me in the eye with his finger with that hot poker that he has. That's the best way to describe the pain, and legitimately, and the doctor can confirm this. There was a study done recently. It is one of probably the worst pain known to mankind.
Firefighters that were at ground zero are dealing with so many things right now. And when we talk about the firefighters' compensation fund, I mean, is this something that cluster headaches are treated with? I mean, can you use that money? I know there's an issue right now. Yeah, the
9/11 compensation fund aside, they don't recognize headache disorders yet. We might be working on that. But the biggest problem we have is just getting the oxygen is our first line of defense, and Medicare won't pay for it, and a lot of insurance companies won't pay for it. I can get a $4,000 a month prescription, but I can't get a $15 bottle of oxygen that works twice as good, and the doctor can tell you about that. The efficacy of this oxygen is better than almost anything I've ever had before.
Really quick, I want to also talk about the conference. This is why you're here in Dallas.
Yeah, the conference is awesome. It's absolutely awesome. You're actually in a room, because the disease is so rare, you're in a room with all these other patients that know exactly what you're going through, the pain that you deal with day in and day out, and it's absolutely great to be here in Dallas at this conference.
Dr. NISSAN, what's the takeaway from the conference?
The takeaway is that it's very important to seek out appropriate medical care for cluster headache. There's a lot of very good organizations, including Cluster Busters, out there that will give you the tools and the professional help that you'll need to seek out the correct physician or provider to see, and also other ways of finding out to seek out other patients too that you can discuss your stories with and actually learn about, because it is a very debilitating disease. It's a lot different. It's not as common as migraine, which is the most common thing that we see from the primary headache disorders. So I think it's just a very good thing to be educated about and learn that it's not a bad thing to have, but you need to have access to the correct medications, the correct treatments. And there's a long delay in diagnosis in most patients, which we're trying to avoid as well, too.
There's one other thing I wanted to add. Over 20% of the people, the responders down at the World Trade Center, have developed severe headache disorders from their exposure.
I've been following that story. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
We're going to make sure that we get the Cluster Buster conference information out there as well. We'll be right back after this break.